There is a specific moment at night when the world finally quiets down and the mind refuses to follow. The lights are off, the body is still, but inside, something keeps moving. Thoughts replay old conversations. Small decisions feel heavy. Imagined futures feel urgent. Nothing is happening, and yet everything feels loud. If you know this state, understand this first. You are not broken, and this is not inevitable. The mind was not designed to spin endlessly when the body is meant to rest. This nightly spiral is not a sign of intelligence or responsibility. It is a sign of conditioning, a habit formed quietly over time. Thinking is not the problem. Uncontrolled repetition is. There is a clear difference between deliberate reflection and mental rumination. One has direction, the other only moves in circles. During the day, your attention is pulled outward. Tasks, messages, expectations. At night, when those forces fade, an untrained mind fills the silence with noise. Not because it's useful, but because it has learned that motion feels like safety, so it creates vigilance where none is required. It rehearses problems that are not present. It keeps the system alert when rest is what's needed. This is not life attacking you. It is the mind trying to control what no longer exists in front of you. Stoicism never treated this as weakness. It treated it as misdirected attention. When attention has no anchor, it spins. Like a blade without a handle, sharp, restless and self-damaging. There is a quiet belief beneath this pattern. If I think enough, I'll be prepared. If I replay the past, I'll avoid future mistakes. If I anticipate everything, I'll stay safe. But observe honestly, how often has this nightly loop actually produced clarity? Almost never. What it produces is exhaustion in advance. You wake up tired before the day even begins. The Stoics understood something essential. Suffering does not come from events. It comes from the mind's repetition of them. Nighttime simply removes distractions and exposes what remains untrained. Here is the core shift you need to make. It is not the number of thoughts that drains you. It is the absence of sovereignty over them. A conscious thought has a beginning, a purpose, and an end. Rumination has none. It is a radio stuck between stations. Constant sound, no signal. The modern mind, flooded with stimulation, has lost the ability to close mental loops. It stays open when it should shut down. Imagine your attention as a beam of light. During the day, it spreads outward. At night, it must return inward. But without training, that beam wanders, illuminating memories, fears, imagined outcomes. You lie in the dark while your mind flashes randomly across time. This is why sleep doesn't come easily. The mind never learned how to land. Stoicism does not ask you to fight thoughts. Fighting creates friction. Friction creates more noise. Instead, it teaches placement, where attention rests, what deserves engagement and what does not. Thought is a tool. It is not a place to live. There is relief in realizing this. Peace does not come from solving everything before sleep. It comes from recognizing what does not require resolution now. A trained mind knows the difference between what demands action and what demands release. That distinction is not personality, it is skill. This is not empty calm or forced positivity. What follows is not motivation. It is not a promise of instant silence. It is a set of practical principles, grounded, restrained, and tested, adapted for the modern mind. They require no belief, only application. The promise is simple and honest. You can drastically reduce nighttime mental spirals without suppressing thought, without rituals, without turning rest into another task. Not by controlling everything, but by choosing where your mind rests when the day is over. And it begins with a quiet, internal decision. Not every thought deserves your attention. The Stoic approach to stopping mental spirals does not begin by chasing silence. Silence cannot be forced. It begins by restoring order. At night, the mind spirals because it is trying to manage everything at once: past, future, imagined outcomes, without hierarchy. Stoicism brings hierarchy back. It teaches the mind where to stand. The first principle is simple but decisive. Separate what requires action from what requires acceptance. Most nighttime thoughts demand neither. They are echoes. Marcus Aurelius understood this intuitively. He didn't ask himself why a thought appeared. He asked whether it belonged to him, whether it deserved engagement, whether it required action now. When a thought surfaces at night, ask one question only: is there an action I can take right now? If the answer is no, the thought has no authority. Consider a modern example. You replay a conversation from earlier in the day. Something you said, something you didn't say. The mind rewinds it again and again, hoping for a different ending. But the event is over. No action exists, only repetition. Stoic practice here is not suppression. It is dismissal. You are not denying the event. You are denying the thought's claim on your attention. Picture it like this: a guard at a gate. Every thought arrives with a request to enter. Not all requests are valid. Nighttime is not the moment for strategy. It is the moment for rest. The second principle builds on this. Do not argue with the mind. Reposition it. Arguing creates momentum. The mind thrives on engagement. Epictetus taught that impressions appear automatically, but consent is optional. The mistake is believing every thought requires a response. It does not. When a spiral begins, do not debate it, do not analyze it, do not correct it. Simply shift attention to something real and present. This could be your breath, not as a technique, but as an anchor, or the weight of your body on the bed, or the temperature of the room. The goal is not relaxation. The goal is grounding. A spiral exists only when attention leaves the present and wanders into imagined time. Bring it back, gently, firmly. Think of attention like a trained animal. It doesn't respond to force, it responds to consistent placement. The third principle is often misunderstood. Clarity comes from containment, not resolution. The modern mind believes everything must be solved immediately. Stoicism rejects this urgency. Seneca warned against exhausting the present by dragging the future into it. At night, the mind opens loops it cannot close. Trying to resolve them creates more loops. Containment means this: I will think about this, but not now. This is not avoidance, it is discipline. One practical method is to assign a future container. Tell yourself, tomorrow, at a specific time, I will address this. The mind relaxes when it knows there is structure. Uncertainty keeps it alert. Containment gives it permission to stand down. You are not postponing responsibility. You are placing it where it belongs. The fourth principle is subtle but powerful. Reduce identity with thought. Many people believe they are their thoughts. Stoicism never accepted this. Thoughts are events, not definitions. At night, this distinction becomes critical. A thought may say, "You're behind." Another may say, "You'll fail." Another may say, "You should have known better." Stoic response is not emotional defense. It is observation. This is a thought, not a command. By labeling it as such, you weaken its grip. You create distance without resistance. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly. He observed his own inner speech the way a strategist observes terrain, without identification. You are not your inner monologue. You are the one hearing it. The fifth principle restores authority. End the day deliberately. Many spirals happen because the day never truly ends. There is no internal signal that says, "Stand down." Stoics valued ritual, not as superstition, but as structure. A simple closing act tells the nervous system that vigilance is no longer required. This could be a brief mental review. What was within my control today? What was not? No judgment, no analysis, just closure. When the day is closed, the mind stops scanning for unfinished business. Spirals lose fuel. Finally, understand this: a calm mind is trained, not convinced. You cannot reason your way out of spirals in the moment. Reason belongs to daylight. Night belongs to habit. Each time you disengage from a loop, you weaken it. Each time you redirect attention without argument, you strengthen control. Stoicism is not about perfection. It is about consistency. You are not trying to eliminate thoughts. You are teaching them where they belong. And when the mind learns that night is not for conflict, it stops creating one. Now slow everything down. Nothing new needs to be added here. This part is not about learning more. It is about settling what you already know. If you've been listening closely, you may notice something subtle happening already. Not silence, but space. That space matters. It is the difference between a mind that reacts and a mind that rests. Most people try to escape their thoughts at night. They distract themselves until exhaustion takes over. They scroll, they numb, they wait for sleep to arrive like a shutdown. Stoicism offers something quieter and more reliable. It teaches you to remain present without interference, to stand inside your own awareness without trying to improve it. When you stop feeding the spiral, it loses momentum, not instantly, but inevitably. The mind is not chaotic by nature. It becomes chaotic when it is rewarded for noise. Each time you engage a spiral, you reinforce it. Each time you disengage without conflict, you weaken it. This is not theory, it is conditioning. At night, your responsibility is not to solve your life. It is not to rehearse tomorrow. It is not to judge today. Your responsibility is containment. Containment is an act of respect toward yourself. It says, this moment is not for struggle. Let the day end. Many people never truly close their days. They carry unfinished attention into the night. The mind keeps scanning because it never received a signal to stop, so give it one. You don't need a ritual filled with meaning. You need a clear, internal boundary. The day is over. What was within your control has passed. What was not never belonged to you. Nothing more is required. If thoughts return, and they may, do not punish yourself. This is not failure. It is repetition, losing strength. Each redirection counts. Each moment of non-engagement restores authority. Authority is not loud. It does not argue. It decides, and then it rests. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. One perfect night changes nothing. Many ordinary nights change everything. Think in terms of training, not results. You are not trying to eliminate thought. You are teaching it timing. Daylight is for analysis, night is for recovery. When the mind learns this distinction, it stops resisting rest. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself late at night not to escape thinking, but to simplify it. Epictetus reminded his students that impressions appear uninvited, but consent is optional. Seneca warned that borrowing tomorrow's troubles robs today of peace. None of them demanded silence. They demanded discipline. And discipline, when practiced gently, becomes calm. As this practice deepens, you may notice changes that don't announce themselves. You won't feel triumphant. You won't feel cured. You'll simply notice fewer spirals gaining traction, shorter loops, more space between thoughts. Sleep will arrive without being chased. This is the mark of progress in Stoic training, not emotional highs, but reduced internal friction. Eventually, you begin to trust yourself at night. You no longer fear your own mind. That trust is earned, quietly. Now comes the internal decision, not a vow, not a goal, a choice you make when it matters. Tonight, when the familiar pattern begins, and it may, you choose not to engage. You choose not to argue. You choose placement over participation. You return attention to what is real, to what is present, to what does not demand interpretation. That choice, repeated without drama, becomes sovereignty. You are not seeking perfect nights. You are building a stable inner posture, and stability is what allows rest. If this approach resonates with you, acknowledge it. Not loudly, not performatively. Write something simple, something honest. I am learning to rest my mind. Not as a comment for approval, but as a declaration of alignment. This is not about approval. It is a quiet declaration made inwardly. This is how a disciplined inner life is built, not through force, not through urgency, but through calm, repeated decisions, made when no one is watching. And when you are ready, continue walking this path with us, not toward silence, but toward control.